Okay, so we'll keep it this way. I think this way maybe it's not going to misbehave as much. So, corporate culture and leadership, and this is an important thing for executing a strategy. And culture is such an important element. It supports mobilizing action. It supports mobilizing goal accomplishment, whatever you want to achieve in terms of financial goals and strategic goals. Culture and strong leadership and strong culture as well really benefit an organization. So, the learning objectives today want to identify key features of a firm's corporate culture and the role of a, a firm's core values and ethical standards. We spoke about ethics already, so I'm not going to go back and talk about ethical theories and stuff like that, but the importance of ethics in creating a strong image for your company and for building a reputation. So, and the second objective is gain an understanding of how and why a firm's culture can support the implementation of strategy, and how does a strong culture help in you know ensuring that you have organizational excellence. And the third objective, learn the kinds of actions management can take if you're dealing with a culture that you want to change. And sometimes cultural changes are necessitated because of acquisitions, joint ventures, collaborations. So you're getting two companies come together to collaborate. Obviously there is a culture change, a shift in culture, which also includes the values that your company stands for, beliefs, assumptions, norms, plenty of rituals and stories that can change. So plenty of changes can happen to your organization and its culture based on what basically is the strategy in terms of expansion or collaboration or joint ventures or acquisitions. And the fourth objective for today's class, understand what constitutes effective managerial leadership. Again, you all took the course Management 370, Organizational Behavior, I'm sure. So you understand the role of leadership, extremely important, not just for business, but for any kind of organized activity. You want strong leadership. So let's start off with culture. Corporate culture, as I was saying, is a mix of the values, beliefs, business principles, traditions that actually denote what an organization does, and also the norms that are ingrained in its employees, and which also dictate the way our attitudes are at the workplace. So culture is an important thing, and if you happen to work in companies that are having strong culture, it's a pervasive culture, and strong cultures actually help you think out of the box, and you get strong sense of support for experimentation. There's plenty of openness. There's a lot of initiative and bias towards action. You're not simply talk, talk, talk all the time. It's about getting things done. And so innovation is supported, risk is tolerated, plenty of support is there for out of the box thinking. It's because you have a strong culture which is working in your favor in the company. So great companies have become great because of the strong values that they actually stand for. It could be in terms of customer, service, quality, integrity, honesty, a lot of things. If there has been a mistake, some safety standards have been compromised, quality is suffering. These companies are not afraid to admit that mistake, and then maybe it involves a massive recall, losing money in the short term, but you don't want to simply compromise on the quality that you promised to deliver to customers. And you want to make sure that safety is your top priority as you service customers. So values, every industry, you can have umpteen number of examples where strong organizational values have created strong brand reputation for the company itself. And then it is important because it influences firms' actions and approaches to conducting business. I've always felt personally as well. If you create a company, you need to start from day one creating a strong culture. That is where leadership comes into picture. Because when you define values for your company, you got to make sure that you talk about these values. You make sure that everybody understands these values, whether it is in day-to-day operations, whether it is in your manufacturing process, or whether it is after sales service. Those core values are extremely important. You will not compromise on those core values. Suppose we have values of giving high quality professional education opportunities for all. We want to give education opportunities that create career options. And maybe we want to give you high quality management education that emphasizes on leadership, on your ability to work in cross cultural teams, and your ability to use or technology for decision making and address challenges that global companies face. I'm speaking about a lot of values here. We're speaking about high quality education, professional education, career oriented education, education that leverages values and builds on leadership and imparts skills and competences that focus on team building, on the use of technology for more specific decisions that help you confront and face and solve organizational problems, even if it's in a global context. So there are plenty of the way you're trying to define what you are here for. I'm not saying we offer an MBA program in this concentration, we offer a bachelor's in this concentration. These are the number of credits you take. This is what you pay. No, I'm not going to those granular detail. But we're saying this is what we stand for. We create opportunities for all, but what we have to offer is high quality education, professional management education, education that makes good citizens, education that develops strong leaders, education that actually helps gain personal experiential education and hands-on experience. So these opportunities are the way we think we stand for. So values, beliefs, and everything that we do should be driven by these values and beliefs and principles. There should not be a compromise. Customer first, likewise students first in everything that we do. If we work in that direction, say our consulting, our teaching, our research, our outreach programs, networking initiatives, everything that we do as a school, we keep customers, that is students, at the center of everything that we do. And we're not then compromising. You're not cutting edges to achieve these things. We stand by those strong, values that we have defined for ourselves. And we're proud to stick to those values. So corporate culture to me is extremely important. Yeah, so key features of a company's culture, organizational culture, is values, principles, and also ethical standards in actual use, and the practices and organizational policies. You want to make sure whatever you're doing in the organization is fair, equitable, and there's this sense of justice. So obviously we are speaking about everyday practices and policies that we have in place. We treat people equally. There's no discriminatory practices, and everything that we do is fair and just. We try, at least we strive all the time. And if there are any aberrations, we are happy to admit and make the necessary corrections. Atmosphere and spirit embodied in the firm's work climate. Again, great companies or great organizations, it doesn't have to be for profit organizations, even organizations which are not for profit. They're all, they embody this wonderful spirit of service. They create a great climate, a great place for you to go and work. Zappos, for example. Any idea why I'm talking of Zappos?
They have like a. I remember. I think it was like one of our first quant classes. Our professor showed a video on it. How they have like a really unique kind of culture, and it's really like laid back, and like the atmosphere is like the
Exactly.
way like
Mhm.
yeah, just like the way they have their culture is like really unique.
Right, and also their one of their founder just passed away a couple of days ago. Do you know that? Yeah,
No, I
he
didn't
was
know that.
he was just 46 and he passed away. I mean, he created, I think, a couple of companies. Zappos was acquired by Amazon, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Anyway, how managers and employees interact and relate to one another. Again, that clearly defines an organization's culture. We can trust people. We can trust our boss or leader, and there's this sense of harmony at the workplace. Collegiality is there. You don't want to go to a workplace where it's very hostile. So it's that kind of climate where people are happy to come and work and share their ideas and support one another. That's the kind of culture and climate that you're looking for. You don't want to be going there and feel stressed out from every moment you go in there. If you're going to feel stressed out, the best of you cannot be utilized by the company. So that's another key, that you want managers and employees to interact, trust, and have that kind of open discussion, so that the best ideas can be implemented, considered for implementation. And we're going down here, strength of peer pressure to conform and observe norms. Culture is such a strong thing. If you get into a good company like, say, Google, for example, I mean, the culture is so intense, it's so strong, it's so pervasive, that you will have peer pressure to conform in ways, in good ways, not in bad ways. So if you're going to go there, the best out of you will come out, because everybody's ideas are valued and treasured. So in that sense, you'll be happy to communicate and share your ideas. Also, another feature of corporate culture is actions and behaviors encouraged and rewarded. See, while building a corporate culture, you got to make sure that you're actually reinforcing those behaviors that are functional, that are constructive. Any behavior that's not really helpful, not conducive, or dysfunctional, make sure you do not reinforce it. So, building a corporate culture can be possible if you reward and reinforce behaviors that are really helpful, that are really functional. Traditions and stories and how we do things around here. I know great organizations, the not-for-profit organizations as well here, that have been doing great things. So those are stories that are pretty inspiring, and that becomes the folklore for any new employee that's being hired, so that he or she gets one with the culture. They understand the culture through the stories that they listen, the inspiring anecdotes they get to listen about the company, and how they've treated customers or how they've treated their own employees, how the firm treats its stakeholders. That's what I was saying. It could be your suppliers, employees, your own customers. The way you treat them, that's really a strong sense of what the culture of the company is. Two culture building roles of a company is core values and ethical standards. Again, it's the same thing that I was saying. It helps create a work climate where company employees, personnel share common and strongly held convictions. So it's not that I am one individual who has these values. It's every one of us share those values. Only then you can say a corporate culture is very strong. It's just not the leadership, not the founder, not the top management alone. If each one of us feels that these values are important as we deal with customers, I think that is when you say we have a strong culture, a culture that's supportive, that's helping our cause. And yeah, again, ethical principles, they serve as yardsticks for gauging the appropriateness of particular actions and decisions and behaviors. You don't want to be compromising on your values because you want to stay ethical, and that's useful for a long-term reputation for your company itself. Now, making sure you are trying to build a strong culture. I know some of you want to start your own companies, you are interested in a startup business. Make sure you're doing these things, these bullet points which are here. So, how do we transform core values and ethical standards into cultural norms? Make it so strong. And how do you do that? Recruit and hire applicants with values and ethics compatible to those of the firm. See, most of the times when hiring managers are doing the hiring process and selection, they only think about the technical skills. They're looking at the credentials which are there in the resume, and interviews are not looking at those values and ethics. So I think that's the key. If you want a company with strong culture and a unified culture where common values are shared, your recruitment has to be very strong. Apart from the technical skills and credentials that are important, you got to make sure there is compatibility with the job incumbent, and the person's values and the company's values. Incorporate the value statement and the code of ethics into orientation and training programs. It's not a bad idea to repeat that. Say, for example, the Japanese firm Matsushita, the Panasonic brand, they actually remind their employees every day of the core values that the company stands for. They even, repeat the mission statement and the core values every single day. So here it's simply speaking about the code of ethics and the values that are given to employees, new recruits. as part of the orientation and training program. But you don't have to, stick only to the orientation or training programs, but you can do it every day, because values are something that you keep talking. See, if you actually closely look at people who stick by certain values in your life, you will see it has happened because of the schooling that they've had. Strong values are built when you're in school, elementary school, primary school, middle school, because teachers were having the patience to repeat these values either through stories, examples, referring to inspiring people, right? Would you agree? So that's what you have to do with any new employee that comes in, that you need to talk about it and repeat it as many times. Have senior faculty executives frequently reiterate and stress the firm's values and ethical principles. That's what I'm saying. You got to drill it down. Everybody should understand this is what we stand for. These are the values that we espouse. These are values which we will never compromise on. And even the ethical standards, both of them have to be repeated several times. And if you have some senior executive say it, you just get that much more seriousness. You understand the gravity of these values and the importance of these ethical principles. Use value statements and code of ethics as benchmarks for the firm's policies. So all other, policies that guide our behavior and practices that we follow are somehow aligned to our core values of being fair, being just, being equitable, and being honest, and ensuring we have integrity in whatever we do. We are answerable and accountable. That's the language that you have to align your policies and practices all the time. So again, continuing that, use core values and ethical principles when evaluating each person's job performance. So it's just not about what outcomes you're getting, accomplishing, the key performance indicators that you're able to achieve, which will become part of your evaluation process, but the way you've gone about doing your business, the way you've gone about achieving those goals. So the means are also as important as the ends. So I think that's another thing that you're saying. Values and ethical principles are not just for, having it on our website and putting it in conspicuous places, but it guides everything that we do, including training, including the recruitment process, appraisal process. We stick to those values, and we also stick to the ethical principles. Encourage all employees to help reinforce the observance of core values and ethical standards. Can you, because I'm speaking about core values, I'll ask you this question. If you're starting your company, what do you, what would you think of the maybe four core values that you would say will define your company? Can you list any four core values that you would think are probably enough to define who you are, what your businesses will be, how will you carry your business, and how will you, conduct your operations? Four core values.
I would say like um respect, like being respectful not just to like customers but also to other companies that are in the same market, because it just reflects well on you. I would say being like responsible in kind of what you do, and like um making sure that like what like your means of operation are both like ethical and like you're respecting your employees. um and then I would say, I can't think of four. I can think of three. My third one would probably be like integrity, um, like knowing what is
Mhm.
right and doing what is right.
Anybody else wants to take a shot at this question? Four core values that you think you will have if you have your own company. And go back to Samantha. You wanted to have your startup, so tell me four core values which will define who you are.
I would say creativity,
Oh, okay, cool.
kindness,
Nice. Okay.
respect, and mm, passion.
That's cool. I'm happy you came up with real good terms, by the way, Samantha.
Thank you.
Now, you know what, one word that you used, I heard it the second time today, kindness.
Mhm.
You know, strangely, in Zoom meetings and then Zoom classes, uh, you know, I've always believed that you got to be kind to people and to your students because, you know, attending those many Zoom classes, meetings every day is not easy on anyone. As much as it is a fatigue for faculty, it is the same thing for other human beings, including your students, right? and
Mhm.
and that means that much more flexibility has to be offered, that much more empathy must be there for your students. And I've spoken about this with the, you know, Everspring, one of our collaborators, and they are the course builders and instructional designers. So whenever I ever have a meeting every Tuesday morning, I speak about a lot of that. I say, see, I give plenty of flexibility to my students in terms of time, in terms of options to take questions, in terms of extensions that I give to my students. There's plenty of kindness there. So the person that works with the Academic Technology Services Department, Beatrice, she also works with Everspring, and she coordinates the work between NYT and Everspring. She was telling me a specific webinar on Zoom and Zoom classes and hybrid teaching and stuff, they emphasize the importance of kindness. So Samantha, whatever you're using, the kindness, the word kindness, I've heard it the second time today. So I'm happy to say that kindness, I think, is a great attribute, a core value. Kind to your own employees, kind to the environment, kindness to your suppliers and to your customers. I think kindness goes a long way, right, Samantha?
Yeah.
So,
So
and then
true.
you spoke about creativity. I would replace creativity with innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because creative ideas are plenty, but how do you convert those creative ideas into something that's tangible? So close to creativity, taking it to the next level is the word innovation.
Mhm.
So innovation can be there in everything, in product design, in delivery modes, in service options. So I think innovation as a core value, thinking outside the box and trying to create some value addition for your customers is a core value which you should always stick to. All of you, I mean, Melanie as well as Samantha, both of you spoke about respect. So I would think I'll replace that word with the one which I put on the chat called reverence. So reverence is much more deeper than simply respect. Reverence is, you know, a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to serve your customers. It's just not respect. It's this sense of gratitude that somebody walked your space and is asking for a service to be done. So I think that kind of gratitude, every time I see a student, I have that sense of gratitude. Mine as you guys, we are inconsequential, we are not even supposed to be here, right? So it's not just respect, it's a deep sense of gratitude. Reverence is a great term to use for a value. And of course, the other things that you said, integrity, you talked about, quality, service, and all those things are great examples of core values. But you have to, as much as you understand it, Melanie and Samantha, it's important that every employee, even the new recruits, understand it and how it relates to what you do as a business and how does it relate to different stakeholders that you serve. You got it? Because these are terms which mean nothing unless you talk about it, explain it, and support your explanation with stories and anecdotes. When you say kindness, can you maybe tell us a couple of instances where kindness went a long way in retaining customers, in actually getting positive word of mouth, publicity, and stuff like that? That's something that inspires new recruits. And you've got to do that several times over because culture it takes time to create new culture. Institute strict ethics enforcement procedures. That is again ethics and code of ethics that you might want to do. So how do you make sure you get the culture to permeate all the spaces in your company? This is what happens. Screening and selecting new employees, be extremely cautious, not just the technical skills and abilities and competences, but also the cultural compatibility is important. Say again, sensitive to customers, sensitive to cultural differences. I mean, that's something that you want to make sure. Yeah, I might be good in using software, I might be trained, I might be credentialed, but am I sensitive to customers, preferences? Am I sensitive to different cultures? Am I, am a supporter of inclusivity? And that those things have to be screened. So when you're recruiting new employees, be very cautious. Apart from seeing the technical skills, conceptual skills, the interpersonal skills, the cultural skills, the emotional, quotient that people have, those have to be given a lot of importance, because you're talking of culture. Systematic indoctrination of new members. Again, you can tell stories, you can tell a lot of examples in the past, and make sure you repeat your core values and ethical principles several times over. Vocal support by senior managers. You want senior members to talk this language, and not one person. Several senior members in the organization should know what they're speaking about. Rewarding those who display cultural norms. Again, not necessarily always monetary rewards. There could be plenty of intrinsic rewards. A kind word, an appreciation in front of everyone, something like that. I still remember Jack Welch, for example, from General Electric. He wrote hundreds of personal notes to his employees, appreciation for their great work that they're being doing, for going out of the way to serve our customers. He actually wrote personal notes. So where technology was available, he could use the intranet within the organization. He did not send an email, but there were personal notes. By the way, you can still use technology, nothing bad about it. I've had in my life both instances. Like when I do a great job, my dean never shies away from writing a small note of appreciation. I'm sure some of you must have got those notes from Dean Jess, right? So those are nice things to have, and of course, personalized notes. Uh, they always help in rewarding employees who stick to cultural norms. Ceremonies on honoring employees, telling and retelling of the firm's legends. It's a great thing. I mean, we grew up listening to stories, right? So storytelling is a great way of reinforcing anything, you know. So that's another way of perpetuating the culture itself. Forces that cause a firm's culture to change or evolve. As I was saying, when you have technologies which change, that can force you to change the way you operate and think. Diversification into new businesses might force you to have a new set of values, and try and create a new culture which works for you. Rapid growth of the firm, and cultures can. There's something called as acculturation. I don't know if you've heard of that term. When you have time, definitely go and research the words that we call as acculturation. Cultures are dynamic, so they change. When a firm grows, or when you enter new businesses or new market spaces, cultures can easily change. But if you want to maintain a close tab on the culture, and you want to maintain that strong culture that you gave a lot of effort in building, you got to be cautious. Samantha, for example, you're going from the United States and then operating in Europe, or then you start going to Asia. You don't want that culture to dilute, and you don't want your core values to be forgotten. So you might want to we always focus on the technical side, the logistics, the supply chain, the value chain, and we're talking about management practices and implementing technologies. But we tend to focus that we want to restore and preserve our core values. If that goes missing, you're losing your uniqueness. Your unique selling proposition is not just based on the quality of products and services that you offer, but the way it is offered, the values that actually are intangible till the point that you start interacting with your customers. And then they see it, they can feel it, they can sense it. All your hospitality business, food and beverages business, coffee shops included, it all depends on that personal touch, as much as it depends on the quality of coffee that you might want to serve and the practices you might want to have. It's also the personal touch which counts. So you want to preserve that core values across when you expand into new markets and new spaces. And if you're entering into collaborations, you don't want to dilute those core values. New challenges in the marketplace, and all these things will force you to have new elements to the culture. But as long as that culture is strong, supportive, you're good. Otherwise, you have to make sure you're retaining your core values. This is what we spoke about: strong cultures versus weak cultures. So strong cultures are deeply rooted, they're widely shared, and they have an impact on the behavioral norms and operating approaches. And they insist that its values and principles be reflected in all decisions and all actions taken by their employees. That's what is a strong culture. So I know for a fact my students who work with for Google, for example, they wouldn't want to leave Google in a hurry, even if they're getting other opportunities to work in other multinational companies. They will give it a strong, real strong thought before leaving Google. It's because of the strong culture that they have. It's very supportive. Google makes sure that your ideas are, taken into account. They get deliberated, and if an idea of yours is actually implemented, you get recognized and rewarded for it. So why do you want to? And there's plenty of flexibility at Google. There's so much flexibility at the same time, and Google actually as a corporate, they take care of all your chores, all your small little necessities are taken care of because they want you to completely focus on your work with plenty of flexibility to stay on top of your game and be as innovative as possible. So with such a strong pervasive culture, you don't want to let go for just a few dollars extra because you like to work for a company that's flexible, that respects your ideas, that rewards you and recognizes you for your contribution. And why would you want to go? And if they really take good care of you in terms of the benefits that they give, services that they offer to you, your family, and to your kids, why would you want to leave that company in a hurry? So strong, pervasive cultures, they're a binding force. It's very helpful in retention of talent. Now, weak cultures, on the other side, they lack values and principles, and they're not widely shared. They have few or no traditions, beliefs, or values. They don't have strong bonds, common bonds, and they don't change people that much because they're, anyways, weak cultures. Can you give me an example of a strong culture that had an impact on you, whether it's in school, in college, or in an organization that you worked for as an intern or as an employee? Go ahead, Samuel.
Yes, it has happened quite a few times. I guess the easiest and more recent would be working with boba guys. I don't know or think it still exists in New York. Uh, but for example, when it comes to culture, they are extremely like they drill it into us. I had to be trained for them for over a month, and every single day being trained, they were literally like, "This is our culture. This is our culture. We're building bridges between
Which
cultures.
which
This
is the
is what we're doing."
company? Because apparently we have a lot of background noise. I'm not sure from where.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's the company. It's Boba Guys,
Okay.
the bubble tea company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a bubble tea company, but they are heavily they want to be multicultural.
Mm-hmm.
They are not focusing on just giving like bubble tea typically is a store that a lot of Asian cultures would go to, but they're
Right.
trying to expand that to other cultures. Like they're adding in like a touch of Mexican culture and stuff. So uh, they want to make sure that what we produce for the consumer is so that we can build this bridge from Asian cuisine to other cuisines around the world and make that gap closer and
Mm-hmm.
make it more seamless.
Yeah, I think you're giving important points for Samantha as she embarks on setting up her own business, right? Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
So development of strong cultures, again, it can happen from the founder, a strong leader with strong values, or it's also contributed by the commitment of the firm to ethical behavior. So both of those contribute to a strong culture. Now, culture well matched to the requirements of the strategy really helps. There's no doubt about that. And because culture actually makes sure that we comply to quality, we comply to the service intentions that we have for our customers, and the passion that we create for ourselves in serving customers. So getting employees energized, incentivizing action, and making sure that we do things in a way that reflect quality, it's much easier because you have a strong culture. So culture definitely has an impact. Like for example, in Abu Dhabi campus, when I was the assistant dean, We thought every student was as precious as anyone else. So when a student came in, I would walk them to the admissions office. I would get them introduced to the admissions officer, and I would get them, introduced to the registrar, so that they understand the process. They know what the paperwork is required, and everything is done. I'm walking them through. Of course, we had a small campus. The number of students which was much less, so it made my life easy. But we made sure that we had a faculty accompanying a student, and I took pains to explain. There were parents who came to the campus, and when they saw a very small campus, they would always have doubts. Is this an American university? Is it really true? Or is it a fake which is out there? So we had to speak about all the accreditations and show them everything, get them to talk to other students and other faculty members. So I took pains to talk to every single parent who came in and walk them through to different people who were actually helping them through the process of admissions. So all that was done, and then it got them introduced even to the career services, alumni director of alumni services, and stuff like that, so that they know that you have a proper university out here. I took them to the libraries to show them that we have a separate library where students can access books and databases, can sit and study. So it was fun doing that because I believed that personal touch is extremely important. The core values have to be carried forward, and that it energizes action. Every single thing that you do is connected to what you are and what your core values are. So healthy cultures help in executing a strategy, because high performance cultures, they get commitment to achieving stretch objectives. The tougher the goals, the more passionate your employees are. It's because they're connected. They feel this strong sense of bonding towards the organization, and they're inspired, they're motivated, and because of which they can achieve things that they normally would have not even tried doing. So we were very small in Abu Dhabi, for example, but we did amazing things. We worked with the Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange. We got them to be, sponsoring our corporate challenge. We got them to award, real good prize money to our students. We had a great dinner at a five-star resort. Trust me, guys, we did plenty of nice things there, and those luncheons and dinners were massive. You could eat till you fall dead. And then that the kind of, they even sponsored the Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange ADX, trading room. So they got us connected. They gave us live feeds of the stock markets itself, a big massive screen to show the live feeds from the stock exchange. So it was really nice. And then we had the Bloomberg terminal just beside the you know ADX room, so where we could actually train our students in Bloomberg certification as well. So there's plenty of support that we had for student activities, and we did big things in terms of students' achievements as well. Say for case study competition in Dubai, our student actually won the first prize, and an MBA student, married and having three children, not less than 40 years of age, going all the way to Dubai and representing our school in a competition and winning the first prize. This was an international competition from several universities. Dubai has a knowledge hub. It's got all the universities from Britain, Australia, and US. So they are all participated in the competition. She wasn't expecting a prize as well. She almost, like, we had to motivate her and persuade her to go there. She was super happy. She was all over the news. So in Dubai, if something happens, it's a splash in the news. It's a splash in the media. And she was happy. She was in the newspapers, she was in the television with her big, massive check, the prize money. Why not? And with NYT, yeah, it's a proud moment for us. So anyway, but talking of high performance cultures, it's not how big of an infrastructure you have, how grand your scale of operations are. It's about your people who share those common values, right? And adaptive cultures, willingness to accept change and take on challenges. And that's another thing that you have to develop, as a founder, as a leader, and senior executive members of your company. I think you have to take the pains to develop that kind of adaptive culture. Changes are inevitable, and embrace change. You're not going to be shy from taking on changes. So if you let your employees accept and embrace and initiate change, You're really adaptive in terms of culture. And if you start thinking, oh, 10 years ago we did this policy, there is a policy that was there. No, things are changing. So you might want to look at, revisit the policy, revisit the guidelines, add, change, modify as you think is appropriate so that you can stick to those core values as you serve your customers. Unhealthy cultures that can create problems in implementing strategy, change resistant cultures. I was just telling Melanie at the beginning of today's class, we as a species could be extinct. It's because we are change resistant most of the times. Not everyone, but some of us are. Politicized cultures, again, why seniority? Why not credentials? Why not performance-based selection of professors for teaching courses? We need to change the policy, I believe. So politicized cultures where only seniority comes into picture, somebody who's been there for ages has to be teaching. I'm not a big believer of it. Insular, inwardly focused cultures. See, the fact that you're not aware of what other companies are doing across the world, that's a problem. There's no shame in trying to say, oh, these are some of the Chinese companies that are doing amazingly well. There is a point that we can learn from their practices. Best practices can be taken from anywhere. It's not necessary all the best practices have to generate and originate from United States or Europe. You can have best practices coming out of Asia. Why not? You cannot be insular anymore because all of us are interconnected. You can't be inwardly focused. You have to figure out getting ideas from outside, from your stakeholders, from other companies, from your collaborations, from benchmarking practices, best practices in the industry. And that's what makes you an adaptive culture. Otherwise, you might become insular. You act in silos, you think whatever you're doing is appropriate until you figure out it's too late. Unethical, greed-driven cultures, and that's a dangerous thing. I've seen many times, companies fall under their own weight because they're driven by unethical practices and greed. So those are things that can impede strategy implementation. Changing a culture, not easy at all, but you need strong leadership for sure. Because if you're having a strong out of sync culture, unhealthy culture, it's going to just not be possible even for the best strategy to be implemented. The plan might be great, the vision might be awesome, but if you have a culture that's not supportive, you're in trouble. So, and for changing a culture of a company, if you're already having an unhealthy culture, you need strong leadership. When I say leadership, it's not one XYZ individual, but it's a bunch of people. So leadership is basically a process where you're working on changing the culture of the place, trying to influence how people behave and act and operate. So leadership is not about one individual. It's about how we operate as a group, as a collective team. And it's really required at several levels in the organization for culture change to happen. So how do you do that if you're dealing with a problem culture? So identify those elements of the present culture that are not really supportive, specify what new action behaviors and are really required, maybe even new norms, talk openly about problems. I think that's the most difficult part. If you actually happen to attend meetings at the top level management, they're all speaking nice things. Nobody wants to present factual information. You'll get there as you start working and reach the higher levels in the organizational hierarchy. You will figure out everybody is talking about all the pleasant things. Nobody wants to really confront the actual problems that you have, and you're not thinking about changing the way we are doing things. It's sad, but that's how we are because we are resistant. So no, it's not going to work. If you want to fix a problem culture, identify those behaviors that are not helping you. Identify those kind of actions that are not really helping you. Figure out what new behaviors must be reinforced, and so that you can actually improve the company's performance. Follow with visible, forceful actions. So I was telling you that bias towards action, not just talk, 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 but action is important. And too many meetings, too much of planning, too much of deliberation, discussion is not going to take you anywhere. You need action, right? And sadly, I think several companies, mediocre, average level companies, they have too many meetings, too many people to plan, a lot of bureaucracy. too many layers for satisfying, you're not going to actually convert any of those strategies or plans into action. A lot of what do you call latent obsolescence is there, inertia is there, and bureaucracy and red tape is there. It just makes action so difficult to be implemented. Selling the change. I think in one of your previous classes I spoke about our iceberg is melting. You remember that? So I think that's an important thing. You need the support of your employees, and you need to make sure that they have this sense of urgency to change. And you've got to celebrate little small victories, reinforce small changes, because people are taking the effort to change, and people are trying to change the way they behave and work. If they're doing it, reinforce it, reward it, appreciate it, and hopefully you can slowly create the change that you want to achieve. And you have to be a role model. You need to incentivize and inspire people and build a coalition, build the kind of support that you require for changing something, and work through those little challenges that you face. And anything that you succeed, even if they're small short-term success, you need to appreciate, recognize, and reinforce it. And then of course eventually you want to achieve something as big as changing culture. Substantive culture change actions. What do we require? Replace key executives. That's a tough thing to do, I know, but that's what is really required. Promote individuals who advocate for cultural shifts. See, that's the key. You might find people in your own organization who knows, the problems that you have, but they just don't have the position or power to take those actions. So you might get rid of some of the key executives who are just taking away too much time and who just are all about their own salaries and benefits packages that they get. So replace them, promote from within the company because they know the organization well. They don't need to be trained. They understand the core values, but give them key positions so that it can galvanize the company and initiate action. Appoint some outsiders with desired cultural attributes. If you think fresh ideas should come in, expertise has to be brought in, bring them in, but not somebody who is self obsessed, not somebody who is narcissistic. You want people who are, who think about the whole organization, whole institution, not just about themselves. You can't, if you're going to get people like that, you're making the situation even worse. Screening candidates for different positions, hiring only those who have that openness. Yesterday I was doing interviews. Like I did interviews for seven faculty applicants for an assistant professor level for the School of Management. I was looking at that. Who is willing to try different things, who are open, who good at what they do in teaching and research, and who are adaptable, who are willing to take extra responsibility, who are willing to go that extra mile. So that's the thing that we should be looking for apart from the thing, credentials and qualifications. Mandate that all employees attend culture training and design compensation incentives that boost, pay for teams and individuals, and pay for performance. If you want a strong culture, pay for performance. If I said I'm taking you for achieving XYZ, key performance indicators, are you really delivering or are you simply talking? Suppose I'm taken in NYT for achieving something. What is that I'm really achieving? Have a clean audit. And if my performance is really great, compensate me accordingly. But if my performance is not up to the mark, I don't need to be paid so much. Either you cut my pay or simply get me off from the job. Changing the culture, top executives have a responsibility, upper management behaviors, ceremonial events to honor exemplary employees, physical symbols, artifacts, the way you lay out your offices. How many of you think as soon as you walk in as a family with your family and you, how many of you think the first impressions that you get getting into a university have a lasting impression on you? I'll give you an example. I went to NYU campus in Abu Dhabi, New York University campus in Abu Dhabi. Have a look when you have time and Google search it. It's huge. It's massive. It's state of the art infrastructure. The best people, the best faculty. great staff, lovely infrastructure, open spaces, student lounges. You have it, you name it, you have it. Would I hesitate to send my kid there? I will not. I'll be happy to send my kid there, right? So that's the kind of impression you want to create. I don't know. I think even the physical layout, the symbols, even that speaks to the culture, not just all the great, core values that you spoke about, but everything that you lay out and the physical artifacts that you create, all those have an impact. How long does it take to change a problem culture? It's never short term. It's very difficult and sustained, persistent effort. Strong leadership has to be there, and maybe you have to reinforce positive behaviors and change behaviors continuously. It's not easy. It said 2 to 5 years. I would think it might take even more for older companies. A lot of lethargy, latent obsolescence, which is there, and bureaucratic practices. Plenty of people who are narcissistic. I think changing culture is not just 2 to 5 years. It can be longer than that. Leading strategy execution requires staying on top of what is happening. Samantha was saying that, monitoring progress, putting constructive pressure on organizations to execute the strategy, achieve operating excellence, initiating corrective action to improve strategy implementation and achieve results. Management by walking around. I think that's the easiest thing you should do every day. If you're dealing with students, how many times you walk around and ask students their real problems? If you're somewhere in your air conditioned office room and you don't know what students are actually complaining about, lack of facilities, lack of say opportunities for internships, maybe placement and career opportunities, I mean, you might have a lot of issues. How will I ever know your problems if I don't talk to you, if I don't walk around? So management by walking around is a great tool. Even if you're the CEO or the CFO or whatever you are, chief operating officer or chief financial officer or chief information officer or chief knowledge officer, whoever you are, you need to walk around, talk to people, talk to customers, have an interface, understand their problems. Otherwise, you're risking it all. Just staying somewhere and planning something, you just have no clue to how you're getting connected with your customers or students here in this case. So treat employees as valued partners. That means every person who speaks has to be, taken seriously. It's not based on position, on based on longevity, or based on tenure, and based on number of years. No, it's based on how you're getting new ideas. Foster esprit de corps that energizes members, that use empowerment to create fully engaged workforce, make champions out of the people who spearhead new ideas, set stretch objectives, goals which are more challenging. And of course, if they achieve those, you recognize their performance. Benchmarking, as I was talking about many times over, look at what other organizations, institutions, universities are doing. Re-engineer your processes. Maybe focus on total quality management, Six Sigma, if you're into, say, other value chain activities like production, service, and you're actually having procurement, inventory management, order processing. So what are the best practices there? Use motivational techniques and compensation incentives to inspire, nurture a results-oriented work climate, and enforce high standards. Celebrate, like John Coater's book, Our Iceberg is Melting. Celebrate individual, group, and company success. It's not about only a few individuals, individuals across the organization. It's not about only individuals, it's about teams and group performances and company success. And don't fake it. When we start making a big issue of nothing, I think we're being pretentious. We are being hypocritical. You got to make sure what you're saying is substantial. People should feel proud of it. If we achieve a marginal improvement and make a big deal about it, I mean, that's stupid. Small little practices here and there are not going to solve the problem. I don't know if you've heard this particular metaphor, fixing the bulb. Most of us are fixing the bulb. We don't have a vision. We don't have a vision like a leader. We are all fixing the bulb. Suddenly we have a pandemic. How do we fix the bulb? How do we fix short-term problems for us? No, it's not going to help. Have long-term, strategies rolling out for yourself. Short-term problems will be taken care of. These cycles, seasonality, cyclicality is not going to be there forever. So top management has to think long-term and think proactively, as you said, creatively, innovatively, and then make sure everybody is not, every individual is fixing the bulb. No, you can't do that. If Prabhakar is capable of contributing in a more substantial way, let him not fix bulbs. Make him feel important and use his ideas. And that's the sad part. Most organizations don't see the talent which is within. They take years to develop them because they train people. They get them the most important thing, which is experience. They have plenty of tacit knowledge resident in employees, but they don't know how to use it. Leading the process of making corrective adjustments. So a thorough analysis is required, a good business judgment in deciding what actions to take. And this is when you're coming to implementation and then evaluating how you're implementing strategy. Once you evaluate whether your strategy is working, analyze the data, take reports, take feedback from all, from your employees, from your customers, from your suppliers, from other stakeholders, and then make sure that you're correcting, you're putting those corrective actions in place. If there is a gap between what you set out to achieve and what your actual performance is, what's causing that gap? What's causing that discrepancy? Gap analysis must be there. The cause effect Ishikawa diagram that we spoke about, the cause effect diagram, that has to be there. What's causing the problem? We wanted to achieve something, but our actual performance is way lesser than that. So what's causing that problem or the discrepancy or the gap? Can we refine our strategy? Can we alter our strategy? Can we add certain elements and discard some elements? Can we take necessary corrective action so that we can bridge the gap between targeted performance and actual performance? I think I've come to the last slide of this course. It's difficult. A final word on leading the process of crafting and strategy execution. It's difficult to separate leading the process and implementing strategy from leading the strategy process. So crafting, implementing, executing strategy is continuous, and fine tuning of the strategies is a continuous process as well. There's no one perfect strategy that fits all situations. The tests, again, if you remember from the first chapter, we said the goodness of fit test. We spoke about the performance test and the competitiveness test. So if your strategy is really good, it should fit the kind of challenges that you face in the environment. Basically, it should fit your strengths and weaknesses versus the opportunities and threats that are out there. So that's the goodness of fit test. And when you talk about performance test, is it ending up in greater demand for your product, higher sales and revenues, and maybe more profitability? That's your performance test. Competitiveness test of your strategy, if it's working for you. Is your strategy getting you ahead of your competition in terms of new product development, in terms of getting into new market spaces, in terms of forging collaborations, in terms of creating patented technologies, or in terms of getting new customers, retaining your existing customers. All these are important, and only then you can say my strategy is keeping me ahead of competition. That's the competitiveness test. So if these three tests your strategy passes, I mean, then you're doing a great job. That means the leadership is working, implementing strategy is happening, and then evaluating strategy and taking corrective action is also happening at the same time, because it's a continuous process, right? So that's about business policy and strategy capstone while it comes to what it takes to do in developing strategy, implementing strategy, necessary resources required in strategy, evaluating strategy. So I think I spoke about several things in this class. Hopefully it's useful for you. And yeah, that finishes off my teaching part.